want to play this part about, if you want to see a real applause at Liberty University, let me play this clip. This clip on abortion, the question they asked him with regard to pro-life, and just listen to the crowd.
But here's the question. A majority of Christians would agree with you, but would also go further and say that children in the womb need our protection even more. Hold on. How do you reconcile
This is an area where we disagree. I do understand and I do believe that it is improper for the United States government or state government to tell every woman in this country the very painful and difficult choice that she has to make on that issue. And I honestly don't want to be too provocative here, but very often conservatives say, you know, get the government out of my life. I don't want the government telling me what to do. But on this very sensitive issue, of which this nation is divided, right. A lot of people agree with you, a lot of people agree with me. But my view is, I respect absolutely a family that says, no, we are not going to have an abortion. I understand that, I respect that. But I would hope that other people respect the very painful and difficult choice that many women feel they have to make, and don't want the government telling them what they have to do. Now, I want to tell you what was in the Republican budget that passed a number of months ago. Check it out. You're thinking I'm not telling you the truth. When you talk about issues of children, understand, Republican budget threw 27 million people off of health care, including many children. At a time when many families cannot afford to send their kids to college. And I am running on a program, by the way, that says every public college and university in America should be tuition free. But at a time when families cannot afford to send their kids to college, Republican budget cut $90 billion in Pell Grants over a 10-year period. At a time when children in America are going hungry, Republican budget cut billions of dollars in nutrition programs, including money for the WIC program, which goes to low-income pregnant women and their babies. And to add insult to injury, in that budget, the Republicans provided over $250 billion over a 10-year period in tax breaks to the top 0.2%. I don't think that is a moral budget.
I don't think that's a moral budget either, Bernie Sanders. This was great stuff by Bernie on yesterday. And I love how he attacked this. There is this vein in the pro-life movement, in conservative evangelicalism, in all of these religious and morally, ostensibly moral organizations that really attempts to neutralize you from doing anything that will actually give you positive gains in the direction of what you're talking about. Case in point, at the very end of that clip, Bernie Sanders went down a litany of programs that were gutted by the Republican budget that they passed several months ago. I did an entire show about it. And I asked the question, why would any Christian vote Republican when you look at this budget and you see how immoral the budget is? Dr. King said that budgets are moral instruments. And so if you look at that budget and you realize that they are gutting every single program that would roll back the need and the demand for abortions, which would reduce the number of abortions in America, but they gut those programs, they really are not interested in seeing a reduction in abortions. They really are just interested in having an absolutist position of you can't have the choice to decide for yourself. They do not care, and I want to emphasize this, they do not care one bit about reducing abortions in America, because if they did, then they would not cut budgets that will affect programs which decrease the demand for the need for abortions in America. One of the number, and I'll post the link in the description. It's not there yet, but I will post it. One of the biggest factors in the choice to have an abortion is poverty or the inability to afford a child. And it's not it's not the welfare queen or the young girl, promiscuous girl who is having abortions. If you look at the data, it shows that there are a lot of married couples who simply cannot afford an additional child who are now making that difficult choice. But when we talk about any of the programs that would, or any of the policies that would absolutely reduce the need for abortions in that particular demographic, because it would help alleviate poverty, it would increase and grow the middle class, anything that would actually affect the need and the demand for abortions, well, they're hands off. They don't care. You know, they don't care. They don't even discuss it. They don't even consider it. And that's the thing. That's how I know that they are not serious about it. Now, here's the other part. Here's another part. According to the Guttmacher Institute, and I'll have this link in the description as well. According to the Guttmacher Institute, 65% of all abortions are performed on Christians, people who identify themselves as Christians. I believe, and it's around 35% of Protestant, and then the remaining percentage is, or is it 45%? But it's a split between Protestant and Catholic, more Protestant than Catholic, but all of them who identify as Christians, 65%. And so, obviously, while they are out here hammering and pounding and trying to convince black people and trying to convince everybody and trying to lecture Bernie Sanders about their positions on abortion and pro-life versus pro-choice, some of them need to just go back to their own churches and preach the sermon to their membership. Because obviously the sermons on abstinence have not worked when 65% of the people who are getting abortions right now are Christians. So to me, it's completely disingenuous when you're talking about abortions and you're talking about the tragedy of abortions. It's completely disingenuous when your elective officials and the people that you support are doing things that are going to exacerbate abortions. If you really meant to bring an end to abortions, then there's two things that you can do that would actually fix and reduce it by a dramatic amount. Number one, you would get your own house in order in every church. And every person that's preaching, you need to address that in your church, because abstinence is not working, obviously. So if you fix that, you fix 65% of the problem. Like, wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be wonderful to see a reduction in abortions by that much? But they're not interested in that. And then the other thing would be to actually implement programs to restore, not implement, just restore the programs that help working poor people so that they can actually afford an additional child. And I love what Bernie Sanders said about it. He said, if it's a matter of a person making the decision to keep a baby, then by all means, we support that, right? We want that. But then likewise, the solution is not an authoritarian stroke in our government to control the bodies and the decisions of half of America. And Bernie Sanders tackled that head on, inside of the belly of the beast of conservative evangelical Christianity. And he took it to them. And so here it ties right back into this mindset that comes from Christian evangelicals of let's one or two things. Let's just completely wait on God to fix the problem, especially when it's something that we don't want to have any responsibility in fixing. Or let's completely take away all of a person's rights to do something that we disagree with. Look at those two complete extremes. One is let's not get involved, and the other one is let's use the power of the government to run in and control the lives and dictate the lives of an entire half of America. You cannot, well, I was going to say that you cannot exist in those two extremes, but apparently there's this cognitive dissonance inside of conservatives that actually makes sense to them, that on some issues that they should not get involved in whatsoever because God can fix it, but in other issues, God can't fix it. Let's use the government to fix it. And Bernie Sanders called out all of that at Liberty University, and I can't, I can't overstate how wonderful it was. How wonderful it was to actually hear someone go to that school and actually tell them things that they may not have wanted to hear. All right, so folks, we're going to take a quick break.